At first, we thought it was just a phase. Then, we heard the whispers and saw the closet door open on its own. The imaginary friend it started on a quiet evening in the Harper household. The rain tapped against the windows as Emily, a 6-year-old girl with golden curls, sat on the floor of her bedroom, giggling softly. Her mother, Sarah, peeked into the room, puzzled. "Who are you talking to, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, stepping inside. Emily turned, her bright blue eyes filled with innocent joy. "My friend." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "What friend?" Emily pointed to the darkened corner of the room. "He's right there. His name is Daniel." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The corner Emily pointed to was empty. Just an old rocking chair sat there, motionless. That night, as Sarah and her husband, Mark, lay in bed, she whispered, "Emily has an imaginary friend." Mark chuckled. "That's normal for kids, right?" Sarah hesitated. "I guess, but something about it felt strange." The next few days, Emily spent more and more time in her room, talking to Daniel. She whispered secrets, laughed at jokes Sarah couldn't hear, and even left space for him at the dinner table. One evening, while tucking Emily into bed, Sarah asked, "Where did Daniel come from?" Emily blinked, as if the answer was obvious. "He's always been here. He said this was his house before." Sarah shivered. Their home was old, but they had never looked into its past. Then came the first real sign that something was wrong. One night, around 2 a.m., the baby monitor crackled to life. At first, it was just soft static, but then a voice, low and whispery, murmured something inaudible. Sarah shot up in bed, eyes wide. Then Emily's voice came through, sleepy and innocent. "Okay, Daniel, I'll come." Sarah bolted from her bed and ran to Emily's room. The bed was empty. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw the closet door standing slightly open. With trembling hands, she pulled it open. Emily was sitting inside, eyes closed, as if in a trance. "Emily," Sarah gasped, shaking her daughter. Emily's eyes fluttered open, confused. "Mommy, why are you scared?" Sarah scooped her up and held her tightly, her heart racing. From the corner of the room, the rocking chair creaked, slowly, as if someone had just stood up. Sarah sat on the couch with a steaming cup of coffee, her hands trembling as she replayed the events of the previous night in her mind. The sound of the rocking chair creaking on its own had been enough to send chills down her spine. She had checked the room thoroughly. There was no sign of anyone else. Mark sat beside her, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Are you sure you didn't imagine it? You were half asleep." Sarah shot him a sharp glance. "I know what I heard, Mark. And Emily, she was sitting in the closet in the middle of the night. She said Daniel told her to come." Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's just an imaginary friend. Kids do this all the time." Sarah shook her head. "No, this is different. She acts like he's real. She talks to him for hours. And last night, she hesitated before continuing. It felt like something was in that room." Mark wrapped an arm around her. "Look, if you're that worried, let's set up the security cameras in her room. Just to ease your mind, okay?" Sarah nodded. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe she was just exhausted. But deep down, something in her gut told her that Daniel wasn't just a figment of Emily's imagination. That night, Mark installed a baby monitor with a night vision camera in Emily's room. Sarah tucked Emily into bed, brushing a few stray curls from her daughter's face. "Sweetheart, if Daniel ever asks you to do something that makes you feel scared or uncomfortable, you have to tell me, okay?" Emily frowned as if the thought had never crossed her mind. "But Daniel is nice, Mommy. He just gets lonely sometimes." Sarah forced a smile. "Just promise me, okay?" Emily nodded. "Okay." Sarah kissed her forehead and turned off the lights, watching as Emily rolled over, facing the darkened corner of the room where the rocking chair sat. As Sarah closed the door, she heard her daughter whisper, "Good night, Daniel." At 3:07 a.m., the baby monitor flickered to life. Sarah woke instantly, sitting upright in bed. A faint static buzzed through the speaker. Then, a soft rustling sound. She grabbed her phone and opened the live camera feed. The night vision made everything look eerie. Emily's small figure was curled under the covers. The rocking chair was still. The room was silent. Then, movement. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she saw the blankets slide down from Emily's body. On their own, Emily stirred slightly but didn't wake. Then, slowly, her body shifted, as if something unseen was pulling her toward the edge of the bed. Sarah gasped and shook Mark awake. "Mark, look at this." Mark blinked blearily at the screen. At first, he didn't react. Then, as he saw Emily's body being dragged inch by inch, his face went pale. Before they could move, Emily suddenly sat up in bed. Her head turned toward the camera, and she smiled. Not the innocent smile of a child, but something eerie, something that didn't belong on her face. Then the screen glitched. The feed cut out. Sarah didn't wait another second. She ran to Emily's room, throwing the door open. Emily was still in bed, breathing evenly. The blankets had been pulled back over her. The rocking chair sat motionless in the corner. But Sarah's heart nearly stopped when she looked at the camera. The lens had been turned, facing directly at the rocking chair. Something had wanted them to see. Morning came, but Sarah felt no relief. She sat in the kitchen, watching Emily stir her cereal. She looked normal, happy, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Mark walked in, his expression grim. He placed his phone on the table and hit play. It was the footage from the baby monitor. Sarah watched in horror as the same events unfolded again. The blankets being pulled, Emily being dragged, the smile at the camera. But then, a shadow. It was faint, barely visible against the night vision glow, but it was there. A dark figure standing in the corner, right next to the rocking chair. And then, just before the feed cut out, the shadow moved. Sarah's stomach twisted. Emily looked up at them, her spoon halfway to her mouth. "Are you watching, Daniel?" Sarah's breath caught. "Emily, can you see Daniel?" Emily tilted her head. "Of course, he's right there." She pointed to the empty kitchen corner. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Mark stood up. "That's it. We're getting help." Emily's face darkened. "Daniel doesn't like that." The lights above them flickered. The kitchen door slammed shut on its own, and from the hallway, the sound of the rocking chair creaking. The kitchen door slammed so hard that Sarah let out a small scream. Mark rushed to grab the handle, but when he pulled, it wouldn't budge. It was as if something was holding it shut from the other side. Emily, however, seemed unfazed. She simply continued eating her cereal. swinging her legs under the chair. "Emily," Sarah said carefully, forcing her voice to stay calm. "Did Daniel close the door?" Emily looked up, her blue eyes wide with curiosity. "I think he's upset." The lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows against the walls. Mark gritted his teeth and gave the door another yank. This time, it flew open so suddenly that he stumbled backward. A cold gust of air rushed into the kitchen, making the hair on Sarah's arms stand on end. Nothing was there. Sarah exchanged a look with Mark. He was pale, his jaw tight. He didn't need to say anything. She knew he had finally seen enough. "This stops today," he muttered under his breath. That afternoon, while Emily was at school, Sarah and Mark sat down with Mark's sister Lisa, who had always been interested in paranormal research. She wasn't a professional, but she had read enough to give them some guidance. "An imaginary friend is normal," Lisa said, sipping her tea. "But when a child claims their friend is real, that's when you have to start asking questions, especially if things start happening around them." Sarah nodded. "We set up a baby monitor in Emily's room and we saw something, Lisa. The blankets moved on their own. Emily was being pulled across the bed, and then..." She hesitated. She smiled at the camera, but it wasn't her smile. It didn't look like my daughter. Lisa frowned. "You recorded it." Mark handed over his phone, showing her the footage. Lisa's eyes widened as she watched. "That's not normal," she whispered. She rewound the video, watching the faint shadow near the rocking chair. "Where did she say Daniel came from?" Lisa asked. "She told me he's always been here," Sarah said. "She said this was his house before." Lisa set the phone down. "You need to check the history of this house. There's a reason why Daniel is here." Sarah swallowed hard. "And if we find something..." Lisa hesitated. "Then we have to figure out what he wants." That night, after putting Emily to bed, Sarah sat at her laptop digging through old property records. The house had been built in the 1950s, passed through multiple owners over the years. Nothing unusual stood out until she found a newspaper article from 1983. Her breath caught in her throat. The headline read, "Local boy vanishes without a trace." The article detailed how an 8-year-old boy named Daniel Carter had disappeared from the very same house. His parents had reported him missing one night, but there were no signs of forced entry, no clues. He was never found. Sarah felt a chill creep down her spine. Daniel had lived here. She printed out the article and rushed to find Mark, showing him the report. His face darkened as he read it. "We have to talk to Emily," he said. Emily sat cross-legged on her bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Sarah and Mark sat beside her, speaking softly. "Sweetheart," Sarah began, "can you tell us more about Daniel?" Emily blinked, as if surprised by the question. "He's my friend." "I know," Sarah said gently. "But where did he come from?" Emily hesitated, glancing toward the rocking chair. "He was here before us." Sarah took a deep breath. "Did he tell you what happened to him?" Emily's lower lip trembled slightly. "He said he got lost." Sarah and Mark exchanged a look. "Lost where?" Mark pressed. Emily's little fingers gripped the rabbit tighter. "Inside the walls." A cold silence filled the room. Sarah's mouth went dry. "Inside the walls," she repeated. Emily nodded, her eyes wide and serious. "He said he couldn't get out, and then everything went dark." Sarah's heart pounded. She thought of the article, a boy who had vanished from the house. No signs of entry or exit. What if Daniel never left? What if he was still here? Mark exhaled sharply. Emily, has Daniel ever asked you to do something? Emily hesitated, then nodded. He told me to come play in the closet. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. And did you? Emily looked down. Only for a little while. But then you came, Mommy. Sarah's mind raced. She remembered finding Emily in the closet that first night, sitting with her eyes closed. Daniel had been trying to take her. Mark stood up abruptly. That's it. We're calling someone. Emily looked worried. Daniel won't like that. Sarah forced a smile. It's okay, sweetheart. We just want to help him. Emily stared at them for a moment, then turned to the dark corner of the room. I'm sorry, she whispered. The rocking chair moved, just a small creak. But it was enough. Sarah grabbed Emily and pulled her close. Mark ushered them both out of the room, slamming the door behind them. We're not waiting, he said. We're getting out of here tonight. As Sarah packed a bag for Emily, she heard her phone vibrate. It was a notification from the baby monitor app, motion detected. Her fingers trembled as she clicked on the video feed. At first, everything looked normal. Emily's empty room, the bed neatly made, the nightlight casting a soft glow. Then, the rocking chair moved, slowly, back and forth, and then the camera glitched, flickering static across the screen. When the image cleared, the chair was empty, but the closet door, it was wide open. A low whisper crackled through the speaker. Come play. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the baby monitor screen, her fingers frozen over the phone. The closet door was wide open. The whisper still echoed in her ears. Come play. She shot to her feet. Mark, we need to leave, now. Mark was already zipping up a bag for Emily. I'll grab her. You get the car started. Sarah ran down the hallway, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She didn't care if it was the middle of the night. They couldn't stay in this house another second. She grabbed the car keys and yanked open the front door. And then, every light in the house went out. The darkness swallowed everything. Cold wind rushed through the hallway, though the windows were all closed. The air felt heavier, thick, like something unseen was pressing in from all sides. Then, a sound, the slow, rhythmic creaking of the rocking chair from Emily's room. Sarah turned, heart hammering. Mark, no answer. She fumbled for her phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam of light sliced through the dark, barely illuminating the hallway. Then, a giggle, soft, childlike, coming from Emily's room. Sarah swallowed hard and stepped forward, gripping the phone tightly. Mark, she called again. This time, she heard movement. Footsteps. She pushed open Emily's door and froze. Emily was sitting on the edge of her bed, her face pale in the dim light. Mark stood beside her, but his eyes weren't on Sarah. They were locked on something else. The closet. The door was wide open, and the shadows inside. They were moving. Sarah grabbed Emily's hand. We're leaving. Emily didn't resist, but her gaze lingered on the closet. Daniel doesn't want us to go. A wave of icy air rushed out of the closet, and the bedroom door slammed shut behind Sarah. The rocking chair began to move, creaking faster, back and forth, as if something invisible was sitting in it. Mark grabbed the doorknob, twisting hard. "It won't open." Sarah pulled Emily close, shielding her. "Daniel, you don't have to do this," she said, her voice shaking. The shadows in the closet twisted, shifting unnaturally. Emily spoke softly. "He's scared." Sarah knelt in front of her daughter, trying to steady her voice. "Scared? Of what, sweetheart?" Emily blinked slowly. "He doesn't want to be alone again." The light on Sarah's phone flickered. The room felt colder than ever. She had a choice: panic or try to understand. Taking a deep breath, she spoke into the darkness. "Daniel, what happened to you?" For a long moment, there was nothing, only silence. Then a whisper, so quiet it was barely audible. "I got lost." The shadows in the closet swirled faster, like a storm brewing. Sarah's heart ached. "Daniel, are you stuck here?" The rocking chair stopped abruptly. Then the voice again, soft, desperate. "Help me." A lump formed in Sarah's throat. She looked at Mark, who was still gripping the doorknob, his knuckles white. Mark nodded once. Sarah turned back to the closet. "How do we help you?" The shadows flickered. Then Emily whispered, as if listening to something only she could hear. "He says he's inside the walls." Sarah's stomach turned. The article, the missing boy, he was never found. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Daniel, are you still here?" The air in the room grew heavy. The shadows in the closet darkened. Then, slowly, they began to pull back, revealing something hidden in the back of the closet. A small wooden panel, a crawl space. Mark grabbed the flashlight and moved toward it cautiously. He ran his hand along the edge of the panel, then yanked. The wood groaned and the panel slid open. A gust of stale air rushed out, carrying the scent of dust and something older, something forgotten. Sarah's breath hitched. Inside the crawl space, there were scratches along the walls, tiny, desperate claw marks. And then, a small pile of fabric, a child's shirt. The realization hit like a weight in her chest. Daniel had never left the house. Mark exhaled sharply. "Oh my God." Sarah turned to Emily, who was staring into the crawl space, her expression unreadable. "Is this where he got lost?" Sarah whispered. Emily nodded. "He said he couldn't find his way out. He was scared." And then it got dark. Sarah's vision blurred with tears. "Daniel," she said softly, "you're not lost anymore." The air in the room shifted. The heavy, suffocating presence began to lift. The closet door creaked. Then, a soft sigh, like wind passing through leaves. And just like that, the shadows vanished. The bedroom door swung open on its own. The house fell completely silent. Emily let out a small breath. "He's gone." Mark looked at Sarah. "Did we?" Sarah swallowed hard, wiping her eyes. "I think we helped him move on." Emily climbed onto her bed, curling up with her stuffed rabbit. "He said thank you." Sarah ran her hand through her daughter's hair. "You can sleep now, sweetheart. Everything's okay." As she stood up, her eyes drifted to the rocking chair. It sat completely still, as if no one had ever been there. But deep in her heart, she knew Daniel had finally found his way home. The house felt different in the morning light. For the first time in weeks, Sarah woke up without the feeling of something watching her. The air was lighter, no longer carrying that suffocating pressure. The shadows in the corners of the rooms were just that, shadows. Emily was still asleep, curled up with her stuffed rabbit, her small face peaceful. Mark sat at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee. He looked exhausted but relieved. When Sarah walked in, he gave her a tired smile. "Did you sleep?" she asked. He nodded. "Better than I have in a long time." Sarah sat down across from him. "Do you think it's really over?" Mark exhaled slowly. "I think we helped him. He was trapped, Sarah. And now he's free." Sarah wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, letting the warmth sink into her fingers. "I just keep thinking, how long was he waiting? How long was he trying to reach someone?" Mark shook his head. "Too long." They sat in silence for a moment. Then, Sarah glanced toward the baby monitor on the counter. It had been silent all night. No more strange noises, no more motion alerts. She reached for it, scrolling through the recorded footage from the night before. The last clip was from the moment they had opened the crawl space. Sarah pressed play. The video showed the closet door creaking open, the wooden panel being removed. And then, for the briefest moment just before the screen flickered to static, a small figure stood near the closet. A boy. His outline was faint, almost transparent, but his face was unmistakable. He looked at the camera and smiled. Then, he faded like mist dissolving in the morning light. Sarah's breath hitched. She turned the screen toward Mark. He watched the clip in silence, his jaw tightening. When the video ended, he let out a slow breath. He was saying goodbye. Sarah nodded, her throat tight. Emily's small voice broke the silence. "Mommy." Sarah turned. Emily stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Daniel's gone now." Sarah smiled softly. "I think so too, sweetheart." Emily climbed onto Sarah's lap, resting her head against her chest. He said, "He's not scared anymore." Sarah pressed a kiss to the top of her daughter's head. "Good." Mark reached across the table, placing his hand over Sarah's. "We should do something for him." Sarah nodded. "Yeah, we should." That afternoon, they made a call to the local authorities, reporting the discovery in the crawl space. Within hours, a team arrived, carefully retrieving the old remains. The forensic team confirmed what they had already suspected. It was Daniel Carter. The story made the local news. Remains of missing boy, found after nearly 4 decades. Neighbors were shocked. Some had lived in the area when Daniel had disappeared, but no one had ever suspected that he had never left the house. A few days later, a small memorial was set up in the town park. The Carter family, Daniel's surviving relatives, attended, grateful for the closure they had long given up on. Sarah and Mark stood near the back, watching as people laid down flowers. Emily held Sarah's hand, her gaze fixed on the small plaque with Daniel's name. As the crowd began to disperse, Emily whispered, "He's happy now." Sarah knelt beside her. "Do you still see him?" Emily shook her head. "No, but I can feel it." Sarah pulled her daughter into a hug. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart." Emily smiled. "I just wanted him to have a friend." Mark placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, squeezing gently. "Let's go home." That night, as they tucked Emily into bed, Sarah hesitated before turning off the light. She glanced at the rocking chair. It hadn't moved since that night. A part of her expected something, a flicker of movement, a whisper, anything, but the room was silent. For the first time, the house truly felt like their own. She kissed Emily's forehead. "Good night, sweetheart." "Good night, Mommy." As Sarah and Mark left the room, they lingered in the doorway for a moment. The house was quiet, peaceful, and just before Sarah closed the door, she could have sworn she heard a faint whisper, barely more than a breath. "Thank you." The air felt warm, light, and Sarah smiled. Daniel was finally home.